And good evening, and thanks for joining us for the TreeStuff Educational Webinar Series. Tonight, our very special guest for his third appearance here for the TreeStuff webinar, Trent from Arborjet. Hey Trent, thanks for being here.
Hey Jake, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be back.
Yeah, believe it or not, summer is still just ahead. We're still in spring, and a lot of people are planting. So we thought it would be interesting to have you guys come and talk a little bit about spring planting and tree injection. So your colleague, Joe Aiken, who's going to join us later in a segment, is also here giving us some very good information. So make sure you get your questions ready. Let's fill those out in the comment section right there on Facebook. And Trent, without further ado, take it away.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks, Jake. Good evening again. Glad to be back. Let's kind of get started and get rolling. We have an interesting night planned tonight. A little bit about Arborjet, just for some brief education before we get into our segment with Joe Aiken, is we've been around since about 2000, guys, so 19 years, and we've expanded our markets. We've added some new turf sales reps to work on the Call-Gel merger, which is quite exciting. And we're working on some new stuff, hopefully, and we're going to talk about that tonight, the Triage R10. I've got a lot of data for you guys that want to know about it and why is it better, so we're going to talk about that, and it's going to be exciting. Field support-wise, this is kind of a new update now. We've added some people and changed some things up, so that's giving you guys a little bit of view of that. And now, without further ado, we're going to go to Joe Aiken's segment, and he's going to talk about how we fill our QuickJet air, because I know you guys have a lot of questions about that, so he's going to talk about the different options, and then he's going to go into how to do a tree injection with the QuickJet air and the different things, and he's going to talk about good IPM and the different things in that aspect of it and walk you through. So I hope you guys enjoy, and I can't wait to see you back shortly.
Hi, I'm Joe. We're going to do some tree injections. This is the outside portion of today's webinar. We're going to start off with one of the biggest questions that we get at Arborjet is the QuickJet air tank. So we've got a couple of different systems I'm going to talk to you about, but the QuickJet air is probably the most popular and the most well used. So one of the questions I get nationwide is, where do we get air? Because my office is in the woods, pretty much like you guys are, and I'm remote so often, we've created an option for you to fill locally through a scuba tank and a scuba tank adapter. So here's my QuickJet air tank. I'm going to show you guys how to hook the adapter up, which I have right here. This is the adapter that I've found that works the best. There's a whip line on there. This will fit on top of a dive tank. Some of you guys may be divers and recognize the yoke. Bleeder valve, quick connect, and then I have a whippet line. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk over to a dive tank. I'm going to attach this, and I'm going to fill this tank so we can inject. So follow me. Here's the dive tank that we're going to use. It is actually a dive tank. If you've scuba dived before, you'll recognize it. With these air tanks, another most important thing is annually, they have to be visually inspected. A lot of these tanks also have anywhere from a 1 to a 5 year hydro test, which means you have to drop it off before the season. So the filling facility that you're working at can take the valves off, and they'll actually put a camera inside the tank and make sure it's safe for you guys to inject. So very simple. Both of these tanks are within hydro, recently inspected, and they're safe to fill. So first thing I need to do is I always keep my dust cap on here, is remove my dust cap from the dive tank. This yoke is designed to thread right on. Snug it up. I'm going to set the tank down. You have a male-female quick connect. Boom. There's a bleeder valve right here to release pressure. Make sure that's tight. On your tanks, you'll see on the neck, you have a pop-off pressure gauge and a male fitting that is the same size as this. So it's as simple as pop it on. I'll watch the gauge. And now what I'll do is I'll slowly open my valve on the dive tank. You can hear the tank transferring. Very slow. and that gauge will slowly go up. I go as slow as possible just for safety. And what will happen is that the pressure in the tank will equalize with this pressure in this tank. So since this is a full fill, you can see the pressure's going up. This is a 3,000 PSI tank. I'm at 3,000. This one could actually fill up to 4,500, but I don't think it's necessary. I stopped it at 3,000. I shut this tank off, bleeder valve, bleed the air out, disconnect, ready to inject. We're outside, and this is our simulated site. Mrs. Homeowner called us, she had some issues with her trees. So the first thing that we're going to do is evaluate the trees. We're going to talk primarily about trunk injection, but we have to have a few extra steps before we decide that we're going to do a trunk injection on a tree. First thing that I walked in the backyard, and my job as an arborist is getting my hands on the tree and identifying the tree. She has a concern with this tree, and if we get a close-up on some of this foliage, you can kind of see why a homeowner may give an arborist a call and be concerned about this. As you can see, the necrotic spots on here, they're interveinal, no pattern whatsoever. If you diagnose it back to the type of spring we've had so far, cool, wet, this is anthracnose. This is a treatable disease. We're not going to cure the leaves that are treated now, but the next set of leaves that come out, we can protect. So there is something we could treat for. If it gets really bad year over year, it could cause stress to the tree. We're going to look at some other trees also, and if you look in a minute, we'll look over at the other silver maple and see how bad it is on that foliage also. So we're going to step over here. We're going to take a look at a little bit more leaves. On the other sample, but you can see all the way up this lead, all the way up into the canopy, you can see just how bad anthracnose is on this year. So a lot of these leaves will curl up and fall off, and then these secondary leaves will flush out and fill in. So a lot of times we don't do nothing in the spring because this is just going to all fall off, and we're going to rely on these to grow and photosynthesize and do all the things that leaves are supposed to do. So for our presentation, we're going to treat this tree. We're going to act as though this tree has been defoliating for a few years. It's under a little bit of stress, and we're going to put a fungicide in it this morning. For this, I would probably use Arborjet, which is a phosphoric acid, acts as a fungistat and a fertilizer, and it's going to green this tree up. So we're going to walk over and we're going to talk about the tree injection. So we identified the tree problem. Now we have a solution. My solution for this one today, and it may not be at every option or every site, is going to be a trunk injection for this one because that's the best treatment program for this tree in this site. I've decided would be a trunk injection. Next step I have to do before I make my trunk injection, I got tree, pathogen, program. Everything's based off of diameter at chest height. So walking up to the tree, DBH is 54 inches. So I would take my diameter tape, I would go around the base of this tree, determine the diameter. So now that I know what tree it is, the problem, the size of the tree, I can go to that product label that I chose to treat this tree. It'll tell me exactly how many injection sites and how many milliliters per injection site I have to put into this tree for that problem. So we looked at the label. This tree is, because I don't have my diameter tape on me, and if I was on a job site, I wouldn't guess. I would really get the tape out and measure this because I need to know exactly, because that's going to be the rate. If I put too much in, it could be a waste. If I don't put enough in, the treat might not be effective. So get your diameter tape, however you need to do it. If you don't have a D tape, a regular tape divided by 3, you just need to get as close as you can. So at this tree right here is probably 16 inches in diameter. That's what we're going to say. So with the quick jet air is the tool that I'm going to use. We're going to use 16 divided by 2. I'm going to have to put 8 injection sites in this tree to administer the treatment. Another first thing I'm going to do, now that we know how many injection sites, is I'm going to walk around the base of the tree, right around the root flare, and I'm looking for good uptake areas, which would be following a root up and be injecting right into the flare just above these roots. And as you can see, this tree is set up really nice for injection because the injection sites will be 6 to 8 inches apart. One here, about 8 inches over, 8. So we can work our way around the base of the tree. I'm also going to look for, I'm not going to inject into any cavities or any damage to the tree, because with compartmentalization, the weakest part of that is above and below. So we could have some compromised tissue above or below a damage. So here's where we're going to go. I'm going to start my injection in this flare right here. I'll get my drill bit and I'll show you guys how to do that. Okay, injection site number 1. A good rule of thumb, quality drill bit. We supply a couple drill bits in the kits. Double helix brad point bit. There's a reason for that, just like any quality woodworking. A lot of you guys relate to a good chain on a chainsaw. You need to cut the tissue, not shred it and fray it. So we've got a good drill bit. Because I determine 8 injection sites, what I like to do is actually count out as many injection sites as I'm doing, and I'll hold them in my hand. We're going to insert an arbor plug. When you guys go back inside, Trent will spend a little bit more time on the arbor plug, why we developed it, and what it's made of, and show you some examples. But for out here, injection site number 1, again, looking for a good site, no damage. In the fissure, one of the first things I'll do is just real lightly, without any pressure, that drill bit actually will walk through all the soft tissue. That determines how deep I have to drill by looking at the thickness of the bark. So it's from that point, and if you're kind of curious to how thick that bark is, I'll set my injection tool in there just to show you. That's how thick the bark is on that tree. So I need the surface of my arbor plug to be set behind that. So I'll know how deep to set the plug. One of the key steps on setting an arbor plug. So from that point right there, inch and a half into the tree. Well, there we go. Someone's messing with my drill bit. In, out, you can see that it extracted all the fibers. Everything's white. Another good telltale sign if you've hit decay or not. Everything looks nice and clear. What I'll do, then I'll take an arbor plug and I'll flag it in the site. For this demo outside, we're only going to put 1 injection site in there. If I was working on the tree and doing all injection sites, I would work my way around and leave all injection sites flagged like that. That way, as I'm looking around the tree, I can evenly space them around the tree. Hammer. I found that through the years that a metal hammer and probably one of the cheapest hammers you can find is actually the best for plug setting. And you'll kind of be able to tell as I set this in, you're going to listen for a tone change and a feel of the set tool going into the tree. So I'll just tap it in. It got solid, and you can kind of hear how the set tool is not going in anymore. I can look in there. I know how deep that is. I can see the surface of the plug. I can start to see a little bit of the white of the first annual growth ring. That's a nice solid injection site. Again, I would go all the way around the tree, set all of my injection sites. Next, quick jet air. We've already went over the air fill. In the reservoir, we've put in our medicament, and for this, it was phosphojet for the demonstration, but it's actually in water, just so for safety for everybody around. So we have water. Then we have the quick jet air. A lot of you guys have seen this before. The nice thing about this device is that I can calibrate it from 1 to 5 mils just by threading in the volume shot sizer. So I have this set right now at 4 mils per compression. And because it's water, I want to show you guys how it works. So just simple, thumb on, piston moves forward, comes back, fills back up the chamber. It's a push-pull system, so it works very well. Again, if I was doing the true injection and I had a compound in there, safety first. So for the film, I'm just going to show you, I'm going to put my nitrile gloves on, chemical resistant. And again, I would have put these on before I mixed any chemical or actually filled them up. So I got my chemically resistant gloves on. On this demo, 8 mils per injection site. Quick jet air. Straight through the arbor plug. And if first 4 mils, you guys want to get in a little closer, check it out, you'll be able to watch. 4, 8. I'll always give it a second. That's the dose is set. I pull my arbor plug out, that site's injected. I work my way around the base of the tree. Drill, plug it, injecting, and this tree with this compound should take me anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes to treat the tree. That tree would be treated. And that's injecting with quick jet air. I got my first couple trees injected over there for the homeowner, and I had a couple of minutes, and as an arborist, what I wanted to do is, because I have time, I think it's my responsibility to walk around the property and check, is there anything else that I should be recommending, not per se upselling, but I want to be on top of everything that can possibly go wrong on this property. So the homeowner called me about the silver maples over there. We addressed the anthracnose, but I wanted to come over to these trees also because they're in the backyard. And looking at the foliage on these, they're suffering from the exact same thing. So I would make note, and I would let the homeowner know that, that the other 3 trees on the south side of the property are suffering from the exact same thing. Another thing I think we need to make note of, we talk about a tree injection, and I know Trent's going to talk about tree planting. We need to look at other defects within a tree that could warrant when we treat and what we don't treat. So I'm going to step over to this tree right here. And one of the main things that I spotted right away, obviously a big decay, which is already getting soft in there. So you think about heart rot, decay. And then this tree is even struggling on this flat side. There's a huge girdling root that goes around this side. And I think it's important to pull this stuff out, because it may be the determining factor as if this tree is going to be slated for a treatment program or a removal. So our responsibility is I don't want to treat the tree that should not be treated. I would make the recommendation for a homeowner that may possibly be a removal. Again, depending on the value of the tree to the homeowner, we have to have all these options. Next thing I want to do is we're slowly going to squeak past these silver maples, and there's a couple of Austrian pines I want you guys to see in the background. So let's take a quick walk over there, and then we'll check them out. Okay, this is a very common tree in the landscape. I'm going to say through the 70s, 80s, even to the 90s, Austrian pines were very heavily used for screens and plantings because they've done so well. This is a perfect example of an Austrian pine, that what happens when they get a little bit older. So we're going to shoot up into the canopy a little bit. I want you to see the thinning, the decline on the needles. The candles are starting to break. But what happens, these trees are suffering from a disease called diplodia. Now, diplodia, in the past, we've tried for years, to some success, with a foliar-applied fungicide to get this under control. Recently, through some research through university testing, we found a way to actually systemically treat these, and the product of choice is Propizol. Propizol is a fantastic fungicide that's been out for a long time. One of the biggest concerns was, how do we get it in there? If you've ever injected a resinous conifer before, you know that the resin pressure in these trees could exceed your injection pressure. The first time on campus that I treated an Austrian pine, our rule of thumb was that we need to wait till the candles start to elongate, which is right where these trees are, because we'd have more flow that we thought traditionally that's when we need to treat. This tree right here generates so much resin pressure that it actually exceeded the IV and filled the IV up with resin. So we had to rethink our ink. There's a research paper coming out through the Journal of Arboriculture real soon that's going to help you understand how we switch the timing of our injections. Trent will cover it inside. But these are now a very treatable tree for that disease. One more thing before we sign off and move inside for the rest of the webinar is that if you look over my shoulder, we have an ash tree. Obviously, I'm not going to treat that ash tree, but I want you guys to not only be aware of the trees that you're looking on site, but I also want to be aware on trees within sight of a location. Maybe I walk over and tell the homeowner what they have and pick up a new customer. maybe what's on that tree. This is an ash tree, it's dying. Indianapolis may be at the peak of EAB, but what if it was a new disease or something that could be affecting this homeowner's trees that hasn't been there yet? I want to be proactive and be able to suggest some type of management plan for the homeowner, my customer's trees, before it gets out of hand. It may just be soil nutrition. There's some great new products out there for soil nutrition. We do know that by keeping a tree healthy as possible through soil nutrition, that it will resist insect and disease better. And it may give that tree that added boost to not decline and become a secondary host to a problem that we're trying to avoid.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate that. That was a great video, really explaining, and we'll talk more about some of the topics that he talked about. But let's get into trunk injection. You know, what's some of the reasons to sell trunk injection solutions? You know, one thing is we can provide a targeted attack for it that lasts longer. You know, an example would be the emerald ash borer, where we're seeing 2 years control in that. Improved time management. We can better utilize our time, guys. If it's windy out, you know, where we can't go do spray jobs, we can actually go out and do an injection. If it's raining and it just started raining, we could still probably go out and do our injections. Now, if it's been raining for a week, like a lot of parts where I'm at in Pennsylvania, and that it's been heavy rain and we've seen slow uptake because of all the rain. So we have to be able to manage these injections and know when we should be going out and doing them. But being that said, with injections, we can treat in different weathers and different climates and have that advantage. But it also allows us to go into the school areas where we couldn't treat before. Municipal treatments. You know, you can go into a town now and do injections, where a lot of times you would be, if it was the city of Boston, you would be going in the middle of the night and spraying. So these are some of the advantages of injections and what we can do. But the environmental impact's big too. With an injection, we're not putting anything into the soil and water. And the last webinar, when I talked about the spotted lanternfly, that could be a big deal for as much injection or control we're going to have to do with that pest. So these are some of the things that we can do it. It's definitely politically accepted now throughout the areas, city of Chicago, Milwaukee. They're treating in lots of counties in Maryland for the emerald ash borer. And the big thing is less risk and liability for your workers in that, because with QuickJet Air, it's really almost zero exposure, because you can put the cap of the bottle right on the leader and inject out of it. So those are the big things. And then money, guys, profitability. 60 to 70% profit margins with injections. So this is a big deal. But also, you know, where do we find workers, you know, when we're looking for tree injections? You know, that's a big question I get when I'm in the field. Where do I find someone that can do this? Well, my advice is look to your trade schools. Your smaller schools. Some in my area would be like Williams Trade School, some of your junior colleges, stuff like that. You could always take a class on the weekends from like Rutgers or anything like that. A lot of your smaller junior colleges have excellent programs that you could hire an intern, you know, and start them out and try them out, see what they can do for you, and use their knowledge and their education for you to grow your business, guys. So those are just some tips to find, because I know trying to find workers in this market right now is tough, and that's just some ideas to do it. How do pesticide move in plants? You know, this is always a big question, you know, how does injection work? You know, for pesticides to work, they either have to be applied as a contact, you know, when you're spraying, you contact them and you die. But with an injection, it's a systemic. So the material's actually moving through the tree's vascular system. So we're using the tree's transpiration or its photosynthesis process to move the material through. So when the tree's letting out water, we're using that to move the material up the tree. And then it's systemically moved throughout the tree. So how long does it take for a tree to be treated once it's treated? Well, it depends on the type of product you're using. If you're using like a water soluble product like acephate and you mix it with water, it could be moved throughout the tree within 24 hours, if not sooner. You know, I've had customers tell me that within an hour it was dropping whiteflies out of the tree. You know, it looked like it was snowing. Your other products like imidacloprid, Arborjet, You know, typically that would be 3 to 5 days throughout the tree. And in your triage products, you're probably looking at 3 to 5 days as well. So that kind of gives you an idea of how fast it's going to move through the tree when you're doing an injection. Disease that are treatable with injection. Anthracnose, you know, but typically that's going to be a fall injection. That's when you're going to get your best results with it. Trying to go out and inject now, we're kind of after the fact. The disease is already set in, and being as wet and cool spring, I've seen a lot of anthracnose in the mid-Atlantic area. And just being here today with Joe, seeing that, you can see what's happening with it. Different chlorosis, root rots, stem cankers, fire blight. We're going to talk about different treatments that we have for that tonight and go over that. Dutch elm disease. I've seen a lot of good injections with our micro-injections with propiconazole or propizol product that's working, that's very effective, and we're seeing 2 years control with that. So these are all the different types of diseases that are out there that I wanted to make you aware of. Some of the insects that are treatable by injection, we've got boring insects, you know, the emerald ash borer, but you've got the bronze-headed birch borer. Any clear-wing borer is going to be knocked out with that. Your gypsy moth, winter moth, you know, that's a treatment that you could do in September with Triage G4 and do that injection and set yourself up to be successful. You know, so you can take some of this heat off in the springtime when we're trying to do all these sprays and do all this work. We can move some of this work to the fall, and that's the advantages of the injections, guys, of what you can do. Different scales can be treated, soft scales, hard scales. So all this can be done with injection. And we're going to talk about some of the different newer products that we have. Bark beetles, you actually get a 2-year control, whether you do that as a preventative treatment or you're coming in to rescue an area, but you got to just determine how bad that infestation is with the southern pine beetles. You know, is there pitch tubes all the way up and down the tree? Well, if that's the case, then you're probably not going to save that tree. But if there's other trees in the area, you may want to treat them. But you just have to be able to understand what's going on. As Joe said in his talk, you have to be able to go out and identify what's going on, what's happening in the neighbors. Thinking of the bark beetles, a big story about that would have been when Sandy went through. Down in Cheekateek, Virginia and Assateague, you know, we went down there probably 7 years ago and said, this is going to be a problem because of all the salt damage and everything that was going on with those trees. Well, we did talks. Nobody was really concerned about it, and then it happened. A brew built up with this southern pine beetle, and it literally wiped out Assateague's pines, and they've all came back now as sprouts and that, but there was tons of homeowners in Cheekateek that had pines, and within 3 weeks, the guy had lost 17 trees. So, I mean, when it gets hot, it's hot. They can really do a lot of damage. So, helping maintain and being good arborists and doing your IPM and maintaining this will help you grow and see things. So, why do we inject trees? You know, that's the question. What's the advantage of it? Well, number one, we're keeping the material in the tree. So it's very safe. We don't have any breakdown of the material. We have minimal impact on the soil and water with that. And there's no exposure to the public. You know, I've been out injecting trees, and I've had kids and parents come up to me. Now, if I was out there in a Tyvek suit spraying, I'm probably not going to have that. So it's more socially acceptable now. There's longest residuals with that. You know, we're seeing 2 years by label, and some research is saying that it can last longer. But it's effective. You know, a 2-year treatment is fantastic control for different pests. So it's a wider treatment window. You know, we're going to talk about it, but typically the season is going to be from leaf out till leaf drop. But Joe Aiken did some research last year at Michigan State on diplodia, and he actually went out and injected pine trees in January and February because the resin isn't moving, there's not as much pressure, and the tree will uptake it. So these are all interesting things, but it's showing that we can have a different window to inject trees. Tree canopies increase when they get bigger. So we need to take this into account when we're out treating, you know. An urban tree that's got a smaller canopy may not need that larger dose of chemical because the canopy is bigger. But if you look at the diameters here in the picture, you can see, you know, a canopy volume's 1 times, but 27 times on a 30-inch tree. So that makes a big difference how big the tree is. So when you're out there doing injections, make sure you're taking the actual canopy into the size. and you're following the label when you're doing these injections. Tree physiology. So this is interesting. I think this is going to help you guys when you're out there determining how long is this injection going to take. So different trees are going to have different types of rings. Your oaks, your ash, and elms are ring porous type tree, and that's going to be the fastest uptake. Literally, as you've seen in our demos when we're out, it can be instant, you know, how fast it'll go up into the tree. Your diffuse porous, which is a moderate uptake, would be your maples, birch, and beech trees. So they're going to be a little bit slower and not as fast. And your toughest tree that you're ever going to inject is going to be a conifer, because it has tracheids, and this is the most difficult tree to inject. And you know, if you're trying to go out and inject pines now with the candles that are soft, it's going to be really difficult for you guys. I'm not saying that you can't do it, but it could take a lot longer than if the candles were hardened off at the time. So the most difficult would be the conifers, guys. Just keep that in mind. Joe talked about this, but drill bits are very important. We came out with a new drill bit, and we've actually patented the technology, and it is a brad point, but it actually pulls out the wood shavings a lot better than any other brad point bits, and we've seen about 60% better uptake with that. So keep that in mind, and I was out with one of my contractors, and we went head to head, my bit versus regular brad point, and we won quite easily with that. But different plugs, so you know, the number 4 plug, that's a 3/8 brad point bit, and the number 3 plug is going to be your 9/32. And then if you choose to use a stinger needle, you're going to look at a 7/32 brad point bit. So these are the different options that are out there, and I'm going to talk about why I feel the plug is an important tool for you. The stinger tip, just to kind of show you what that looks like, this is suitable for low pressure. If you have any issues with uptake or anything like that, this is going to be a problem, and you may have a harder time to do uptake. And it's a lot harder if you are having issues with uptake to come back to this the next day to do injections, because it's hard to find the holes, guys. It's a smaller hole. So ring porous trees, it might work. I think this would be suitable if you're out in the woods. It's a great application, but in an urban environment, I would probably lean towards the plug. So the arbor plug, I've talked about it, but it's a black plastic plug with 3 barbs on it and a rubber septum. And essentially, it's a one-way gate valve. So number one, it's going to keep the product in the tree. You know, typically with plugless injections, you lose 1 to 2 mils. Well, if you add that up, that 1 to 2 mils is the cost of the plug, if not more. You want to make sure you're setting this plug deep enough. It's the biggest mistake that I see out there, guys, when doing tree injections, is setting these plugs. When you're doing the plug set, just as Joe said, you're going to drill through that soft tissue, and once you see how deep that soft tissue is, then you're going to go 1 inch to 1.5 inches in, and that's with hardwoods. You may go 1.5 inches to 2 inches on evergreens because the slower uptake and that. So just keep that in mind, and you can see in the picture there what the plug looks like. That plug is just set in the tree, and you want to see the plug being grown over. Setting the plug, you want to see that white edge, like Joe said. I can't tell you enough. I have guys call me, tell me that plugs are being pushed out, and that's just because they weren't set deep enough. Once you start setting them deep enough, you won't have any issues, because guys will call and say that they've seen, they've had a bark blowout or anything like that. And typically what that is, guys, is just not setting the plug deep enough. So keep that in mind and make sure that we're setting these plugs properly. Looking at these photos here, it's about proper post-injection response. This is showing how the tree is actually recovering from the plug. So you can see with the hemlock how it may have been a little bit of shallow because you see that discoloration, but look how the trees continue to grow over that. So literally 3 to 5 years down the road, guys, you could be injecting into that same site because the tree is continuing to grow. You can see with the ash what that looks like. There was always a concern that these injections would cause decay, but Michigan State did studies on this and has proven that the wood actually compartmentalizes. It doesn't show decay. It's a still live tissue, but it's just not active, so it's not conductive. It's not taking in the material in that sense. So that's all interesting stuff, and you see the picture of the elm tree there. Talking about equipment, you know, what's the best equipment for you? A lot of guys ask me this, you know, when they're starting out, what should I buy, Trent? Well, if you're going to start out and do a certain pest because you're not sure, you're new, you know, you're learning the business, you're going to choose to do the emerald ash borer, then maybe you would go with the QuickJet Air or spotted lanternfly. Maybe that is the device that you would choose. But if you want the most universal device that's going to allow you to do many different types of injections, I believe the F-Series is a great choice for you. It gives you flexibility because you can do multiple trees by yourself. So you're out in the field, you drill, you set the plugs, you set up that first bottle, and then you move to the next drill and set up that bottle. And you could be actually doing multiple trees at one time, which is going to be more efficient, guys. It also gives you the flexibility to do different fungicide applications. You could do different insecticide applications because you have a 1.5 liter bottle, which would be for your Dutch elm disease, anthracnose. And now, since these upgrades have came along, now we have a metal top, which you can see there, and everything's metal. So there's no plastic. There's a cap where you can take it off and insert your funnel and fill it. So no longer getting the tubes of the old IV in the ground or getting dirt on it. It's a closed system. And the real nice extra thing that you see there is this hex PDS technology, guys. What that allows you to do now is you have 6 lines. You can close off 2 of them with plugs and go down to 4. Or you can attach with, you can see is that little connection, you could go to add another 6 and you could do 12 injection points. So now your larger trees can easily be treated with 1 bottle, or you can still choose to do it with 2, but it gives you that flexibility. So now you could do 12, 10, 8. You have the flexibility when you're out in the field to do different things. Quarter turn ball valves. A lot of guys have asked for this. We finally delivered with it, and it's a lot faster, guys. And now you can see when it's on and when it's off. You can get this with a stinger tip if you wish. That is an option. But it's fast, you know, and there's no leakage, and they're easy to put in and out quickly. That's the entire kit right there. We improved the air pump as well, guys. It's all metal now, and it has a tripod stand, so it's a lot easier to stand up. These caps and heads are not compatible with the old IV because the old IV would only go to 60 PSI, and this F-Series now has the capability of going up to 120 PSI. Do I recommend going to 120 PSI? No, I don't think you ever need to do that, but you have the ability to do that. I was out the other day in Pennsylvania doing injections, and one of the guys was doing 60 PSI, and the tree was struggling. And I brought out my QuickJet Air and did some injections at like 90 PSI, and we just breezed through the tree. So I asked if I could do the next injection with the F-Series, and I cranked up the pressure to about 80 PSI, and man, it was just that much faster. So changing the range of your pressure could make your day go faster, guys. You have to test it and see. Some days 30 PSA may be good enough and it'll go right in the tree, but some days you may need to ump the pressure because we've had significant rainfall or the tree's just not active. So this will allow the material to go into the tree. QuickJet Air, Joe talked about quite a bit. But I want to talk a little bit about it. You know, we have a new regulator now. It's not seen in the picture yet. I don't have the updated one, but it's new and improved. It swivels. It's got a little bit longer cord on it, guys, and it's just fast. And the reason I like this device is if you're running a 2-man crew and you have lots of trees to do, you know, thousands of trees, this allows you to put 1 guy drilling and 1 guy injecting, and it's very fast and efficient. And the ability to connect to the liter or the pint to do the injection is a big plus. And I think we're going to go into some question and answers right now, so let's go ahead and get started.
Hey, Trent, Carson from TreeStuff.com here, and I do have some questions going all the way back to Joe's little video there. Sean Smith is asking if they can charge a QuickJet air tank off of a standard compressor.
Sean, you cannot do it off a standard compressor, but you could purchase a shoebox compressor to attach to that, and you could use it, or you could visit your local dive shop and apply it, and typically that ranges from $6 to $8. Or as Joe showed, you could do an a scuba tank. Either of those options would work. I think your standard shoebox compressor will run you $300 to $400 if you want to add that to your compressor. But the Quick Jet Air is 3,000 PSI, so the standard compressor can't fill it.
Another one from Sean Smith asking about the gloves that Joe was wearing.
All the gloves are nitrile chemical resistant gloves. You have to have that as PPE. That's
so
correct.
those were specifically chemical resistant gloves. They weren't just like throwaway kitchen gloves.
Correct.
He got to that before I finished the question because he and I had talked about this while the video was running. One more, you talked about uptake being different between ring porous trees and then pine trees and trees that aren't ring porous. What about things that, as he says, are semi-ring porous like cherry? Is the uptake speed just kind of somewhere in between the two?
Correct. That is correct. It would probably be, it's like a diffuse porous type tree. It's going to be a little bit different. It would probably be in between.
Athena Odell is asking about, she says that she finds bark separation to be a fairly common issue. Does the low pressure of the stinger needle help with that? And are there any other suggestions you have for bark separation?
If she's seeing bark separation, I would say the plugs may need to go deeper. In my findings, if you don't see the white or actually hear that plug go into the hardwood and set the three rings on that plug, you could get bark separation. And I was out with some applicators earlier or late last week, and that was the biggest thing that I was finding. Every tree's bark is different in thickness, so you can never put like a lock or a piece of tape on that drill bit to drill into that tree. You really need to practice and learn how to feel through it. So feel drilling through the soft cambium layer and then go that inch to inch and a half, and just make a note, as Joe did in the video, that how deep that cambium layer is so you know that the plug is set differently. And make sure you're checking to see if the bark tissue is white and not brown or decayed, because I ran into instances where the tree had a crack and that caused issues that we didn't see because it was a little bit off. So it can happen, but typically it's the plugs not being set deep enough.
Sean Smith also mentioned that he had had some issues with the Tree IV system and didn't go like super in depth with it. So I guess I'll just ask you, what's the best way for people to get in touch with somebody at Arborjet and try to talk through some of those issues and see if there is a way around them?
We have a customer service when you call in. We have a customer service rep. Right now it's Zach that's in the office that can take calls. And if you're having issues and you can't reach him, call us in the field, shoot us a text, email us. Our numbers are listed on the website. I'm happy to give that out. And I don't want you to be down in the field, because when you're down, you're not making money. So we're here to help, and we're always willing. If we're available, we'll answer your questions.
One more, then I'll let you get back to doing your thing. Matt Phillips asks, are there any benefits or drawbacks to diluting the chemical with water?
If the label states diluting the water, I'll give it an example. With the Triage G4, you could dilute it, and it may be an advantage if you're doing gypsy moth or winter moth or some leaf-eating tissue, because you want it to go further. But for your boring insects, I think injecting it neat is fine, because you want it to stay in the stem tissue, because we're attacking the borers in that. If you were injecting an evergreen, that may be an advantage to allow it to inject easier into the tree because of the resin and the sap. So that may be an opportunity, but I just think it depends on the situation. But like for emerald ash borer and that, I would inject neat. And that would be my answer for that. Kind of get moving. The AccuFlow, this is our new meter device for your shortstop applications, where you can actually calibrate it to do tell you how many milliliters you're putting out to make those applications go quicker. You could do hydrotane applications, or even different types of bark sprays with it. So it's definitely a new tool out there. If you guys want to demo it or try it, please contact us and we'll come out and let you guys give it a try. I'm excited, guys. We finally launched our Triage R10. It is a restricted use pesticide, but let me talk about the advantages of it to you guys. It's a 9.7% emectin benzoate product. It has the same efficacy as the Triage And the Triage G4, it's a higher concentration, so it's going to be lower volumes of chemical. We can treat 3 times as fast because it's less than half the dose of the G4. We saw injection times 3 times faster into hardwoods and 7 times faster on conifer trees using the Quick Jet Air. That's a big difference, guys. You know, talk about time savings. How do we make more money if we can cut down on time? You know, the materials and that are always going to be set, but if we can save more money on labor, that's huge. It can be mixed with Proposal now. This is one product now that you can mix with a fungicide and do an application. So for your polyphagous shot hole borer or your southern pine beetle applications, this is huge, guys. This is a time savings. It's going to speed up the process. You know, you no longer have to do one after the other. This is a big deal. But it's only going to be by commercial applicators. You're going to have your pesticide license for this. So keep that in mind. Injection times. So this is showing you how much faster the Quick Jet Air compared, or with the Quick Jet Air with generic imectin-benzoates, guys. This is where we saw 3 times as fast. This is a big deal. You know, we're saving time here, and time is money, as we all know. And then we use different tree species here in this chart. So we went red maple, black oak, white ash, average. You can see the differences in the times versus that using the Quick Jet Air. So with that tool, you're going to be that much faster in that instance. Using it on conifers, we saw almost 7 times as fast on some of these injections with Douglas firs, guys, doing the Edelman spruce beetle. So this is kind of a big deal when you think about time savings, and anytime we go out and inject a pine or a spruce tree or a white pine, it's difficult. So these are ways for you to improve and make your times faster. So with the F-Series, we did not see as much as a time improvement, but there was still a difference, guys. It is faster. So we're improving your time and speed on this Triage R10. Getting into the data, we're seeing just as good as results, and we have data for 2 years control, so don't worry about the research. We have it. We know that it works just as long, and we're continuing the studies to see if we're getting longer efficacy with the higher dose. So this goes into the invasive shot hole borer. Look at the time difference with the Triage R10 with the Proposal injection combined versus the others. So that's significantly faster in that aspect, guys.
Is that per tree or per blood site?
Per tree. Okay. Per tree. I want to say in the time studies from research, he told me in 105 minutes he did like 21 trees in evergreens. So it was significantly faster. And I'll double check that data and post that afterwards, but that's how much faster. It was significant. So this is the mortality in the Engelmann spruce beetle, you know, and you can see the advantage of the Triage R10 and Proposal. So this gives you a way to now to inject an insecticide and a fungicide together, which saves time, guys, because in the past we were doing one after the other, and now you can do it together. So that's a big time savings in my mind. Just wanted to touch, Triage G4 is our general use unless you're in New York where it would still be restricted, but this is a fast product too, and still very effective and the best, fastest uptake with 2 years of control. Proposal. So Proposal would be what you would use for Dutch elm disease. This is what you could use for sycamore anthracnose. Our Proposal is the broadest label propiconazole on the market. So you can use this for your turf sprays in that aspect. Trees, shrubs, turf, all this. This is an option with this product. So it's a great product, guys. It's very effective. I'm doing a lot of research. We're going to be doing more research to see how effective it is on needle cast, because we saw the effectiveness with diplodia, and I'll show you some pictures of that coming up here. This was a photo here in the Midwest that a guy actually injected Proposal on Mother's Day. I would have probably taken that Austrian pine down on the left, but look how it pushed out after the injection. So That's showing you the effectiveness of the proposal. And being a fungistat, it's very effective in suppressing the disease. It's not curing it, but it's suppressing it to where the tree can continue to grow and go on. Phosphojet. I think this product is very unique. I think you guys can use it as almost, it's a fungicide, but I also feel that it's a plant booster. It's going to give you plant resistance. It's going to turn on the tree's natural defense system. It's going to make the leaves thicker. It's going to allow the tree to heal or compartmentalize faster. It works in a lot of ways, guys. I've talked about it before, but on my red maples, I had honeydew, soft scale, and I injected Arborjet, and then I followed up with the Phosphojet, and I was amazed in a year's time how all the wounds on the trunk have healed, and it was just that much faster. We do have the new label now, so you can bark spray it, you can soil drench it, so it gives you a lot more options to use this. Beech bark disease, this is another thing you could inject or do a bark spray with. When you do an injection, guys, it's going to be a faster result, and you're probably going to see better results because it gets into the tree faster than trying to absorb into it. OTC, Arbor OTC. So this is what you guys would use for your bacterial leaf scorch on oaks. And when we're doing these oak treatments, I think you want to keep in mind that we should do like an Arborjet injection, because we have to stop the spread of the skips or whatever is spreading the disease. It's just going to suppress the disease. So you're going to get a suppression. You would be doing those injections now. You would be starting now into mid-June before it gets hot and we start seeing the bacterial leaf scorch set in. I do have a customer that's actually used the OTC and then followed with the Phosphojet, and instead of injecting yearly, he's chose to go every other year with this method, and then on the off season he'll do like a vertical mulch or a compost tea or some sort of fertilizer, and he's seen results. You know, a neighbor's tree was dead, and his tree's 10 years in, it's still alive and kicking. So these are ways to do it. This would be another tool for fire blight. But with this, it's all about timing. You need to get it in before flower drop and leaf out. So you really have a small window to do that injection. And I would probably go to Phosphojet if the leaves are already out for fire blight. Azisol. Azisol is our Azdiractin product. It's OMRI listed, guys. This is what some arborists are out using as an organic control for emerald ash borer. I've used this for Japanese beetles. I've used it for spotted lanternfly. It's a growth regulator, so it's going to stop the growth cycle. So it's going to stop them from feeding. It's not going to give you a quick kill, but it's going to inhibit egg laying. You could use it as a spray. You could use it as an injection. As a spray, you're going to get about a 14 to 21 day residual with this product, and it's absorbed through the leaves. Minjet FE. So this is our newer product, guys. It took over for Minjet Iron. It can be used as an injection or it can be used as a spray, guys. So for your shrubs, this gives you an option for chlorotic products. It's flexible. You know, typically with our old Minjet Iron, we had to wait till the leaf tissue hardened off. So it may be till late June, July before we could do these injections. Now we can actually go into the spring, summer, once the tissues harden off, and do these injections. And I've got some photos for you just to show you some results. Look at this photo. This is down in the Texas area, June 21st to August 3rd. Look at the difference in that tree. So how long is this going to last? I think it's going to be determined on how severe the chlorosis is. You know, you may get 2 years if it's not a severe chlorosis, and you may only get a year if it's a really severe thing. Because we all know that we have to correct the soil to correct the tree, but this is a temporary fix. This is going to give that customer the green tree that they want. Just another photo, November 2nd to August 4th. A little bit of difference there in that sense, but that's going on almost a year. You can see the difference in the new growth that it pushed. This tree, they were going to cut down, our tech Emmett. talked them into allowing them to treat it, and look at the difference. I mean, so this product can work. It can change the way things are and make things different for you. So what's great about trees, guys? Let's talk about that. Well, why are they great? You know, why do we want to plant trees? What's the advantage? Well, they reduce air pollution. You know, an ash tree collects 2,300 gallons of water per year. So why wouldn't we want to save those? Why would we want to go cut them down? So if we remove all the ash trees in a city area, they're probably going to get storm runoff flooding because it's not there. We're going to have reduced soil erosion. They conserve energy. You know, if you have large, healthy shade trees around your house, guess what? It's cooler. It's easier to air condition in the summer. In the winter, you know, maybe it blocks the wind a little bit. It reduces the heat island effect. If you're in apartments in the city and there's trees around it, guess what? They're not as hot because typically your cities are a lot hotter, and that aspect can be miserable. Property values, you know, landscape value, if your house is landscaped and done, that could add anywhere between $10,000 to $15,000. So why wouldn't we take care of that? It shows better neighborhoods. More trees, there's less crime. You know, if the neighborhood doesn't have trees, there's more crime. So reduced noise, there's more wildlife in that. So that's what's great about trees in that aspect of it, guys. Spring planting. Let's get into that. What does that mean? We take for granted what we do. The landscapers that are out there go into these building environments, whether it's commercial, residential, and they get left with typically junk because the topsoil is hauled away. Unless it's a spec thing to where topsoil is brought in, we don't have very good soil types. So most arborists and that are out there are not getting the right stuff. So we have to look at that. We have to worry. We're going to talk about what size of hole are we planting when we do trees. Crown placement. You know, that's the biggest issue I see out there, guys. When us as arborists are out on a property, how many guys see that the tree's planted too deep? You know, or my favorite, the volcano mulch. I've got pictures coming of that. I just, it blows my mind how we can put 6 to 8 inches of mulch and wonder why the tree's dying. Watering. You know, we plant a tree and we walk away. Well, a tree needs to be established. So we're going to talk about the different watering and amendments that we can use out there and the different, you know, plant care. What can we do as arborists? How can we make this landscape better? So, properly planting a tree, guys. Are we out digging a hole 2 to 3 times the size of it? Probably not. Most guys I see, it's getting augered in by an auger, and that's what we're doing. It's not what we want to see. We're not amending the soil. We're just throwing the soil back in. So is that clay? Is it sandy soil? What type of soil is it? Is the root collar above grade? You know, I've been on a couple of properties, and guess what? It's not. It's very low. It's just not up to par. We want to put at least 2 to 4 inches of mulch, not touching the trunk. We want to keep it around it. So what do we do if it's poorly drained soil? You know, if it's budgeted, if it's in the proper planting practice, we should maybe put some gravel in it. We should dig the soil out and loosen it and maybe put like a little bit of a drain in there, as you can see in the different diagrams that I've got there. And I know you guys are going to be learning about pruning and that, so making sure the tree's pruned properly, you know, is going to help it succeed in planting. So, volcano mulching, we all see it, it happens. When I was a landscape designer before Arborjet, I was out on a property and a guy goes, "What's wrong with my cherry trees?" And I walk out to him and I'm like, "Oh my." I go and I start digging down, and there's 10 inches of volcano mulch on it. So he's like, "What can we do?" Well, we can remove the mulch. We're probably going to run into lots of fibrous roots, which we did, but the tree's recovered and they're healthy now. So as Joe was saying now, we have to do our due diligence and go out and determine what's wrong. Maybe we need to come in and air spade and do different aspects of it. These are all things that we need to do to help promote these trees. You know, typically, as in the photo, we don't ever see the trunk flare. I was on a commercial property in Baltimore, and I was walking around and I'm like, what's wrong with these trees? Oh, they're planted 6 inches too deep. So what can we do? Well, as good arborists, we can go to the client and say, you know, we need to dig these trees up and properly plant them so they can establish and do the right thing. NutriRoot. So this is going to help you with all your planting needs. It's a unique fertilizer with some water management. It's going to help with drought stress. It's going to help with transplant shock. It's going to help with root growth. It's going to give you about a month of activity with one application. And you can use it on your roses. You could use it in your garden, different shrubs, lawn, landscape, all these. And it's actually a USDA biocertified product. So what is it? It's a fertilizer, guys. It's got a basic 2,2,3 plus some micros. It has our product Hydrotain in it, which is going to help reduce the amount of watering that you have to do. It has a root stimulator. It has more roots, more water, and nutrients. That's key. So all these things are very important and going to allow us to be a healthier plant, more success. So what does the fertilizer do? So the humates actually feed the soil to boost micro activity. So this is going to be like your seaweed and those other products in there, which is going to make the soil work better. So an improved soil is going to allow the tree to be healthier because it allows the macro and micronutrients to feed into the plant, which you can see there. And then what you get with the fertilizer effect, this is a fantastic photo. This is in Minnesota. Before fertilization, this tree was very chlorotic, as you can see. It had a bad root zone and drought conditions there. And they did one application of the NutriRoot. And what I can tell you probably happened here is this tree was planted, it was never watered, and the root ball just sat there and it became rock hard. So when it rained, the water ran off the root ball and the tree wasn't getting enough root. And with the NutriRoot application, it broke that surface tension on that root ball and allowed the water to penetrate into it. And we had activity with that. So it recovered. It allowed the nutrients into the tree, and we saw that. What does the moisture manager do? Well, it allows increased percolation. So it allows water to be running, instead of running off, like if this was a hillside and water was running down it, if we applied this material, it would absorb into the hillside. So it's going to allow the water, and it's not going to allow the fine root hairs to dry out. So it's going to keep the humectants and draw the water into the root zone when it becomes low. And what that's also going to improve is any of your macro and micronutrients are going to flow into the plant better, or if you would apply a fertilizer in that sense. So common applications, it's established. It's designed to increase the survival in your B&B plants by reducing drought stress and transplant shock. It's going to help with drought. You know, if the homeowners are going away, this is a fantastic product to go out and apply. Gator bags, right? Why wouldn't we want to add a product like this to your water truck when you're doing the gator bags? Instead of coming back in 3 days to fill that gator bag, maybe you come back in a week. That's going to save you time and efficiency. Guys, if we're installing trees for a commercial landscape and we have to supply a warranty, why would we not want to put this product on it? You know, and if you're an arborist on a property and you see that a landscaper came in and applied new trees, why wouldn't you offer this? Because they probably didn't. You know, it's an easy fix to apply this application. You know, you're mixing it with water and you're pouring it onto the root zone. It doesn't get any easier. There's a hose-in feeder if you want to hook it up to your hose and just spray it on. So poor growing conditions, you know, end of season, right? We go out and we spray anti-desiccant spray. Well, what if we apply NutriRoot and we don't have to do that? I think maybe we'll take a break here coming up, guys, for a few minutes, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Cale Royer, head party animal at TreeStuff.com. I'm here to make sure that everyone knows about our Tree Stuff Party program. Each month, volunteer arborists from different regions host free recreational climbing events powered by TreeStuff.com, giving local arborists a chance to meet, hang out, climb, and try out some cool new gear in the trees. Every Tree Stuff party is 100% free, so there's no reason to not bring your family, friends, co-workers, and acquaintances. Check our Facebook events page to learn about upcoming Tree Stuff parties, and sign up to be notified when there's a new Tree Stuff party in your neck of the woods at treestuff.com/parties. It's all about seeing friends, making new friends, and having fun in the trees. I hope you can make it to a party soon.
It was late in the day, you know, sun's out, and I was getting complacent. I went to make my cut, and towards the end, I didn't want it to roll into the water. And towards the end of the cut, I took one hand off the saw, put it on top of the stump. There was a knot on the back side of the wood. And the tip of the bar caught it. The way it kicked, it drove the saw right into where my main artery, femoral artery is right there. And it's probably saved my life. Pretty scary. It's nice to be able to rely on quality PPE. The pants are amazing. They're breathable, comfortable, you know, they're form-fitting. I've worn all types of pants, and these are by far my favorite. Regardless of how good you think you are, accidents happen. It's worth $200. Buy the chainsaw pants. It might save your life, you know?
I'm Carson with TreeStuff.com, and I'd like to ask you to take a second to learn about the Fallen Families Fund. It's a charity created to provide small cash donations to families who have been affected by the death or injury of a working arborist. All of the administrative costs are covered by Cheryl Inc., so 100% of your contribution goes to help families in their time of healing and recovery. You can learn more and donate at www.fallenfamiliesfund.org. All right, if you didn't get enough of me, once again, Carson from Tree Stuff, and I do have a couple questions for you, Trent, but before I get there, I want to say we've been having some issues with Facebook. I see people commenting about it. I've been having the same issues. We don't know what's happening. We're doing our best to try and find a way around it, but everything seems to be working okay on our end. I have also had reports that it's working better on mobile. So if you're really into watching Trent tell us about PHC, maybe switch over to your phone. People have been telling us that it's working a little bit better. Another short announcement and then questions. Stick around after the webinar for TreeStuff After Dark. We're doing something a little goofy, and I am putting myself on the line. So quite literally. So hang out. We've got something fun planned after we're done with Trent. Trent, back to you with some questions. Matt Phillips wants to know what the recommended injection time between Phosphojet and other Arborjet products is.
Typically, you could go right after. You know, if I'm doing insecticides, I would probably do that first and then do the Phosphojet. But one after the other is fine. The only time that I may say different is if it's a cherry tree and it's dry, I may wait till I have some moisture to do that. But typically, you can go one after the other.
Awesome. Sean Smith, and this is one where hopefully you know what he's talking about because I do not. What's the length of effect on your injectable IGR?
IGR, our growth regulator. The if it's the PGR, which I think he's talking about, our shortstop 2SC will actually last 3 years as a soil drench. So essentially you'll see a 50% reduction in growth the first year and then 85% the second and third year. And I can say that I've used it on my red maples, and I am blown away on the difference, how they look compared to the others and how much tighter the growth is. And the neat thing that I saw was when they went to seed this spring, the seeds held for almost 3 to 4 days longer than the trees that weren't treated. So it was kind of neat, and there's so much more dense and growth. Fantastic product, you know. To me, a growth regulator is the easiest sell because every tree could use it.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to let you get back to it. If anybody has more questions, throw them in the chat. Jake and I are here reading all your questions, trying to reply to as much as we can, and writing them down for Q&A time with Trent. Trent, back to you, and we'll see everybody else at TreeStuff After Dark at the end of the webinar.
Great. So methods to kind of finish off NutriRoot. You could soil inject this product, guys. You could use a soil drench, new or old systems. Tank mix and spray would be one option, a hose and sprayer, but it's great for it. And you can see all the different applications that you can use it with. Arborplex. So with the Ecologel purchase, we have our own fertilizer now, guys, and we're trying now to put together that program, and I'm going to talk a little bit about these products. So Arborplex is going to be your 14-4-5 type thing. So it's slow release nitrogen with a little bit of phosphorus and some humates in it with some micronutrients. So this is going to be another product that you can use to get great plant health color. Consistent feeding with this, improve stress tolerance. You're going to get some micronutrients included in this. This is going to be great for your urban trees, promoted root growth and shoot growth, you know, better transplant survivability with this product. These are the different application rates, as you can see. Root injection, you're going to blend with at least 5 gallons of water per caliper inch, so 1 to 2 pounds, or 0.5 to 1 pounds for the conifers, and you would do the same for a root drench. You could use it as a foliar feed as well, guys. So you have lots of different options with this product and how you work with it. This kind of gets into the benefits of it. So where to use? Nutrient deficiencies, loss of vigor, adverse growing conditions, you know, depleted soils where there's weaker trees. This would be the product that you could go to. The other product that I think is really exciting, and this is going to help work on the soil. So this has molasses in it. It's a 5-3-2, but it's going to help the micro activity in the soil. It's going to have some micronutrients in it, your iron and manganese and zinc for optimal plant health color and that. But it's ideal for soils with low CEC. So it's going to improve that cation exchange rate in it. It's going to help with nutrient cycling. And a big thing, guys, is it's going to break down organic matter. So your mulch areas and things like that, this is going to be something that you can use to break that down. Or if you're using it on turf, it would break down that thatch layer. Some of the benefits of it, sterile nutrients and sterile sand conditions. This is going to help hold it into that sandy soil. It's going to enhance your nutrient uptake, so it's going to improve how that material goes into the tree. It's going to stimulate some root growth as well. It's going to improve your tolerance on stresses. It's going to help with your overall plant vigor. It's really working on the soil, guys, so it's going to improve that chemistry to make it an overall healthy thing. And it's going to be a cocktail. You know, you could mix the Arborplex with the BioMP and have this cocktail when you go out and do different types of programs. So these are options and things that are coming. Product application, you're looking at about 6 to 15 per 1,000 square feet and at least 5 gallons of water per caliper inch. You know, and a root drench allowed to soak in. So this kind of breaks it down here. You're going to get the blacker layering, talking about the organic mulch, thatch buildup, nutrient leaching, you know, and low water holding capacity. So your sandy soils, this is going to help improve that. It's going to help working in that clay soil too in that aspect. It's going to help with loss of the nutrients. So this is our latest stock that's going to be coming out. We're getting ready to launch this Arboriculture RPX prescription. So it's going to be based with the BioMP and Enviroplex, which is humic acids. Iron Plus, which would be your liquid iron that's going to help with chlorotic. It's going to have NutriRoot in it, so that's going to be something that you can use as well. It's going to have the Hydrotane product, which is just going to give you 3 months of watering, reduced watering. It's going to improve the way nutrients go in. If you put fertilizers in, this is going to improve. So it's working with soil moisture management. And then Cytogrow is our root hormone. So it's going to be your biostimulant, which NutriRoot has in it, but this is a more concentrated. So you're going to get encouraged rooting, better establishment, and all that. So that's kind of our prescription program that's going to be coming to you. We're going to be launching this and rolling it out. I'm very excited about it. It's going to give you guys a liquid fert that you can soil inject and give you some different options from us. So support. We're working on our app, guys. We're trying to improve it. We're trying to make it better. We're doing more webinars with TreeStuff because we want to get more education out there. I would love for you guys to give us some more feedback on different things that you would like to see, different types of classes. You know, we rolled out a lot of different things, in the aspects of what we did last year. We did a lot of webinars, webinar-based education on different things, on how planting a tree, landscape design, different things like that. Would it be beneficial for us to come out with like a tree identification, like going out and doing a talk with Joe Aiken and walking around and identifying trees and different pests? Would that be of interest to you? You know, I'm trying to get feedback from you guys because you're in the field. What can we do to make you more successful? What can we do to help you grow your business? You know, all of our YouTube videos are located on our app, and I think it's a great thing. I think there's different marketing tools that you can use. I'm loving the tree inventory things that are on phones now, and I would love to find out more about that. But what can we do to identify that and grow that business? And Carson, do you have questions for me?
I do have one question.
Okay.
And it's a question. Apparently, Sean Smith fell victim to our little Facebook debacle going on here this evening.
Okay.
One more time, the quick and dirty version. What kind of time are we looking? Active time for growth regulator.
Growth regulator. If you use our shortstop 2SC, Sean, the first year you'll see a 50% reduction in growth. The second and third year you'll see 85% reduction in growth. So as a basal drench or a soil drench, you're getting at least 3 years. It could be even more if you're up in the New York area, but typically the Midwest down, that would change. When you get into South Carolina and Georgia, it may be less, it may be closer to 2 years because the growing seasons are longer. But like Mid-Atlantic through the Midwest, you're going to see at least 3 years, if not more.
Turns out, and I'm glad that, see, this is the beauty of live comments and live video, because he was referring to the insect regulator.
Oh, the insect growth regulator. You'll get 1 season. It's going to last. It's going to inhibit. It's going to stop them from egg laying. So you get 1 season of stopping them. So it's essentially, you're going to break that life cycle.
So is that something where you're going to have to just continue to apply it every year, or should that take care of?
Correct. So essentially, we'll do emerald ash borer. So you would do that as a yearly injection because it's going to stop them from egg laying, but it's not going to give you a 2-year control like Triage would do. You might be able, for like spraying application, killing aphids or something like that, it may stop the life cycle to where he doesn't have to spray again. It might be a monitor, good IPM.
So is there a reason that you might use that insect growth regulator instead of Triage, or is Triage, like for emerald ash borer, is Triage always the right answer?
To me, yes. I mean, if you have a customer that wants an organic means and doesn't want to use a synthetic pesticide, then Azosol would be your choice. But to me, Triage, that brand would be what I would choose to do emerald ash borer.
And now you'd probably choose R10, right?
That's correct.
Which is, as I have to point out, available on TreeStuff.com.
Absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
I think we're done with questions here. I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to Jake just for a moment.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Very much. Again, you can get R10 here at TreeStuff.com, and of course, if you have any other questions, you can always talk to our customer service reps as well. I'm bringing in my computer, so we have dual apples here. We've got several things going on here tonight.
Absolutely.
Lots of fun, lots of things going on. And Trent, thank you so much again for being here with us. Lots of great information, especially this time of year when it comes to planting and injections and caring and maintaining those beautiful trees we have out in not only our customers' yards, but also just, you know, in your own yards as well.
Absolutely. And I think as wet as it is, guys, in some areas, watch for your diseases. We've had a lot of cool, wet nights. I think we're going to have a big spike on different types of diseases. And the spotted lanternfly are hatching out. Just so you know, a little update on that. I was just up at a site and they were everywhere. So be ready that they're here, they're launching, and that's what we're doing now.
And Trent, we talked a little bit about the database for you guys as well. Do you want to explain that? Because
yeah, absolutely.
That's in the quiz.
Absolutely.
That's in the quiz right there. If you want to be a part of it, just click yes.
So if you guys want to be listed as an Arborjet service provider, click on the quiz that you want to be listed, and we'll get you listed there. Because the advantage of that is when people come to our website and they type in a zip code, you will come up. And I want to say it's a 20-mile or maybe 200-mile radius. I'll have to find out for sure, but you'll be listed, whether it's spotted lanternfly or emerald ash borer or just a service provider, someone who wants Arborjet products.
Okay, we do have one question. This one was really good. One final question. This is from Matt Phillips. So when would you want to go with something like Arborplex versus a more organic product like BioMP or NutriRoot, or when you're considering fertilization methods?
I guess it's figuring out cost of what each product would do. You know, if it's spring and it's startup and I just wanted something to get going, I would probably go to NutriRoot because it has a good portion. It has the hydrotane, it has the Cytogrow all in one, so it's an easy application. When you get into the summer and you want to do a little bit of the cocktails, maybe you do the Arborplex and BioMP together, you know, and use it in the summer months because it's going to give you that extended feeding, where the NutriRoot may give you about a month, where those products may give you 2 or 3 months. So it's more about what you want to do and what round or what your customer's looking for.
Okay, there you go. Trent, thanks again, and thanks to Joe Aiken as well for all his knowledge out there in the field with the tree injection. So we also want to thank you for joining us. We're just in front of a, you're going to go actually help our friend over here.
Going.
We're just ahead of a holiday weekend, so thank you so much for spending your time with us. We have got so many things going on, but first I want to tell you that, again, we have that quiz. The links are posted. You can earn 2 ISA CEUs if you have a passing score on a quiz based on what you heard here tonight. So make sure you click on that link, and good luck in getting a passing score. Please allow 6 to 8 weeks for ISA to process your CEUs and for those to be reflected on your account. Now, tons of things going on right now. I got to tell you all about these things. TreeStuff presents the Arborist Discount Network. That is May 30th, next Thursday. Unbelievable deals, deals like this you've never seen before. Come to our Facebook page. We'll be streaming it live. 1 hour only. These deals will be available. June 1st, Atlanta, Georgia. You get ready for a TreeStuff party. June 6th, the business of the tree care business with our good friend Nick Araya out in LA. He's going to do a remote webinar for us. This is part 2 of the business of the tree care business. You don't have to see part 1 in order to understand part 2, but we do have that posted on our YouTube channel as well. So if you want to check that out, go ahead and get your questions ready for Nick Araya. That is right here on our Facebook page. Also on Thursday, June 6th from 6 to 8 p.m. Virginia TreeStuff Party on the 15th. Pruning for Performance and Prevention with Lindsay Purcell from the Purdue Extension. That's on June 27th. Florida TreeStuff Party on the 29th. Russellville, Tennessee, July 6th, TreeStuff Party. And then, of course, look at that, July 12th, TreeStuff Jambo 6, the climbing competition event of the year. being held again here at Holiday Park in Indianapolis. Make sure you're signed up, and if you're not competing, see if you can volunteer, so you can help us out just ahead of time before the competition starts. So now, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thanks to the crew, thanks to Cale, and obviously Carson and Trent and Joe for being here, and of course our fearless leader Nick for helping and guiding us as well. We couldn't do it without you guys, so thank you for your support for our educational webinar series. But don't go away, because we're starting something new. It's called TreeStuff After Dark, and we've got an unbelievably funny and amazing thing going on in just a few minutes. Carson, I got to tell you what's going on here. Okay, so Carson is going to be suspended over a pit of sludge. You might have seen this on our social media pages. You have to test him and see if he makes it out of here dry. It's all up to you guys. So comment the name of any product we sell on TreeStuff.com, and he has to guess the retail price. For every wrong question, his brother, Cale, will swipe a silky saw across the rope. Plus, get this, for every 2 shares we get on this video, we'll swipe the saw again. Got it? So we will get that going here in just a minute. So guys, go ahead and take it away here. And thanks so much for Trent Dix helping us out again. Here we are. You need help lifting him? Yeah. Welcome to the inaugural TreeStuff After Dark. Are we there? Okay.
All right, so this is the first time we've ever tried this.
What am I? You might me pull this?
Yep.
Okay.
You guys are killing me.
Okay, yeah, maybe we need to.
Oh, there we go. Too much. Whoa. All right. I'm good. So, I'm suspended. 3.
I can't go.
That's good. We're good.
Is he done? Is he locked in?
No, ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, we're good. We're good.
Is he locked in?
To be good, yeah. So, throw your product suggestions in the comments.
Okay. Where's my laptop? Okay.
I get wrong, Cale's going to take a swipe at this silky Crocente. What's that? What? What? I didn't have your audio right. Apparently you couldn't hear me. Hopefully you can hear me now. We're good.
Okay.
I'm suspended over what is probably 18 inches of water topped with sludge. You throw your product suggestions in the comments. And for every price that I get wrong, Kayla's going to swipe this silky Crocente saw over my base tie there. And we're going to just see what happens, I guess, because I spend a lot of time on our website, but I don't know the prices of all of the products that we sell. Jake?
Still waiting for some comments, guys. Now remember, the objection here is you have to test him and see if he's going to make it out of here dry.
Which I would love to do.
Yeah. Okay, in the comment the name of any product we sell on TreeStuff.com.
I can feel
guess the retail price. For every wrong question, Kale's going to swipe a silky saw across the throat. Plus, for every 2 shares we get on video, we'll swipe the saw again.
Yeah, go ahead and share. Get your friends in here watching. Let's try and get as many people in here, as many product suggestions as we can.
All right,
Because some of you may know that I'm a big trivia guy. I like answering questions.
Okay, I have to find this on TreeStuff.com.
What's the first product, Jake?
Hold on a second. All right, here we go.
Hopefully it's not like the sprocket for us Varna saw.
Sterling
you gave me that idea.
Sterling Pocket Hauler.
Ooh. So Sterling Pocket Hauler, we're looking at like a 4-to-1 or a 5-to-1 mechanical advantage system. I'm gonna guess a Sterling Pocket. Hang on. What do I get? Within $10?
Ooh. I don't know. You better ask your brother.
Yeah, I'd say with that.
I think $10 is pretty fair. Sterling Pocket Hauler.
Yes, Matt. I know we do.
Sterling Pocket Hauler. I'm gonna guess $230.
And what did we decide on?
$10.
The margin of error.
$10.
You said 239?
230.
230?
No!
It is $279.99.
Oh boy.
Sorry.
Oh boy.
That really gripped. I'm gonna start a little
Oh,
bit.
Matt says within $5.
No, come on.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
It's a little. Yeah, I'm just trying to make it.
I don't know.
Trying to make it what?
We're just.
I mean, I don't have my glasses on, but we're missing 3 strands already. Now this is Sterling Tritech. It's really common for lanyards because it's incredibly abrasion resistant, which is why I chose this particular rope.
Athena, I need a brand name.
However, I have chosen a silky salt, so.
The sharpest saw. Yeah.
Carson, Matt Derrickson says the first swipe is from him.
Oh. Did he share it? Did he share the
I don't know.
post?
Did
That's
he
the only
share
way
it,
you get to do
Oh,
it.
that's true. How many shares do we have? This is all payback. If you don't know, Carson's my little brother, so this is all payback for
I'm only seeing 2 shares.
our lifetime, just pretty much everything.
2 shares is 1 swipe, right?
As far as 2 shares here
Oh,
of
how about
our Facebook.
Oh no. Oh.
Okay.
This is fun.
Oh, Athena just shared it as well.
Oh, come on.
So is that what that's 3?
Yeah, if you share it, let us know.
This water is also very cold.
I guess we should use a 2-in-1 system, maybe?
Yeah, to hoist them higher.
Okay.
Maybe a Sterling Pocket Hauler.
Okay, but Matt, you've got to give me a brand name.
What's the product?
Okay, here.
11/16
Look.
inch, 18-inch wood bit.
That's not fair.
Oh, here you go.
That's not, it's,
Here you go. Bio barrier.
okay, yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Bio barrier.
21-foot roll of 19.5 inch.
They're going for just the most obscure products they can possibly find.
What did you expect me to do?
How many? How much feet? How many feet?
19.5 and that's not even coming out. 19.5 inches times 21 feet.
Oh man, that's probably $80 worth of bio barrier is my guess. Bio barrier is pretty expensive, man, and that's like 20 feet worth.
The bio barrier root control system is
Yes.
what we're talking about? And we're talking about 19.5 by 21, right? $10?
Pretty standard.
I said $80.
Okay, it's $10 difference.
Yep.
Carson, I'm sorry.
No.
That's wrong again. That's the retail price.
gentle.
Is $109.99.
Oh, I was close.
But
I was
not
within 30
close
bucks.
enough.
All right, what's the next
I think I'm
one?
just gonna.
I'm gonna get one of these. Give me something easy. I know how much a rope runner costs.
Well,
I don't know if they're
are we
gonna do
taking
that.
sale prices? in?
Retail prices.
Okay. Let's see.
Hold on a second.
All right, man. I'm just so
We can just
close
come up
to
with
it. I feel like
Some
I'm
of it is just being suspended there too, you know.
No kidding. And the smell of this nasty stuff. It's just everywhere.
All
Got it all over my hands.
I'm amazed Nick hasn't chimed in yet.
Come on, guys. I need another product.
This is
It's
like
all up to you guys. We have 20 people watching.
this is the.
Give me a
strangest-
product.
How many shares do we have, Jake?
4 shares.
Oh no.
Oh, I think that's another one.
Well, but yeah,
That's another
did we
one.
already get?
I did the first one, so when we were
Is the core showing?
That was, let's see. I can see it. I don't think I've cut it.
Come on, guys, give me some products.
See this Sterling Tritech, they use a class 2 fiber.
The other side here?
No. They use
Okay.
a class 2 fiber to give you that abrasion resistance, which is really helpful
Thank you, Matt.
for like a lanyard and for situations like this where kale gets a little saw happy.
All right, let me get this in the search here.
What's the product?
Airstay.
Oh man. I know they're expensive, but I don't know how expensive.
Why is it not? Yes.
Jake's new.
All right, so an air spade,
Okay, all right, are we talking about the tool only?
The tool.
Or are we talking about the kit?
the tool.
Okay, just the tool.
Yeah.
I would bet that the air spade tool is about $400.
Is that your final answer?
No. I would
It
say
sounded like a final answer.
$200.
Way off.
$200.
Way off.
I really don't know.
Airspace tool only
Yeah.
retails for $1,499.99.
Wow.
That deserves two.
That's a swipe and a half.
That, what?
That's,
Deserves two swipes. Yes, Matt. Okay. All right. So hey, look, we got another one here.
We can ask him questions about like walking. He's not very good at that.
Joel. Okay, wait a minute.
What's the product?
Let's go with Athena. Stein Guardian chainsaw trousers. Now I have to put it in the system. Put it in the search.
Look at all that fluff. That's good stuff right there.
$225.
No.
Oh, come on.
$324.99. Oh, of course. Okay, wait, I got one more here.
This is
CMI.
terrifying.
The CMI mini block.
Yeah, that's the core.
The mini half-inch or the mini?
Well, I'll tell you what.
The mini block I think is
My
$90.
expression. The CMI
The orange one?
162 half-inch
Yeah.
mini arborist block.
I'm going $90.
Wrong.
Oh man.
$129.95.
Craig, you want to watch?
No.
No, it's fun to see watch it, everything just go like fluffy.
Oh, I can hear it. I can like feel the vibrations in the rope. But I also don't want to just get a mouthful of this.
What's gonna happen?
Oh man.
What kind of hat are you? What kind of helmet are you wearing?
I believe I'm wearing
You're
a
wearing a CMI.
No, it's a climbing technology.
Climbing Technology X Arbor.
Okay, here. Okay, this one's easier, John.
Yeah, let's do easier. I like easier.
Well, I mean easier for you to find.
Well,
That's
that doesn't do me any
I need to
good.
get mine too. And here, I've got some trivia questions for Wild Carson's. Why did the neighbor girl slap you when you were about 9?
Oh my goodness. We don't have to get personal here.
Well, that's the whole reason why I'm the guy cutting.
Jake?
Okay. The Rope Logic 3/4 inch safe block ultra sling.
125.
Nope. $229.99.
Come on, car.
Will this be the swank that does it?
Oh.
Wow.
Did you feel a little give there?
Oh no, but like my whole body tensed up.
You're looking at least halfway through.
All right. Let's get some people sharing and get this
Okay,
going fast.
here's a good question from Matt. How much is the silky saw that's
Gomtaro.
$70.
Gomtaro's
Gomtaro Pro Sente 240.
Gomtaro.
$70.
The what?
The 240. The Pro Sente 240.
The 240 root cutting, the 240 hand.
The Pro Sente 240.
Ah, the Procente. And you say it's how much?
70.
$64.99.
Yeah! I got one!
You actually got one.
You say that like you didn't think I was going to.
Oh, here, this is a good one. How many legs does a crab have?
I wonder who wrote that.
Crabs have
Yes, crab.
10 legs.
Yes, crab.
Hey!
Crab, says Gary Royer.
How many shares do we have, Jake?
Still 4 shares. Hey, come on, Nikki. Come on, Gary. Do a share so we can
Let's do.
put him in the schmutzes. Okay, here's a good one. All right.
Hey, how much is the Quick Jet Air, Carson?
The whole kit?
Whole kit.
I'm looking for Trent to give me a hint, but I don't have my glasses on.
I don't. Yeah.
I believe the Quick Jet Air is like 1150 or 1200.
You were looking at 2,179.
No, he's
Oh,
really
good.
He's really sawing it too. Oh, no.
All right, Carson.
Hit me.
The Teufelberger Sirius multi-anchor system.
Oh man, I have no idea. What length? You gotta be specific, Jake.
4 meters or 6 meters. You take. We'll give you the choice.
The benefit of the doubt.
The Sirius multi-anchor system?
Yep.
315.
No. The 4 meter is $101.99 and the 6 is $119.99. Swipe!
Cart, why are you looking? Look this way. Look up here. Look up here. Oh, I forgot to hit the. I was gonna hit the record button on this so that we can have for playback.
Yes, you should. Because I think it's coming.
Because I mean, we're getting real close here. Here's your last bit. Do you think?
That's it!
I didn't like that. Well, thanks to everybody who tuned in for the first edition of TreeStuff After Dark. I'm Carson. We've got Jake, Kale, and Trent in the studio. Shout out to Nick Bonner for having this big ol' idea for something crazy and for making all this happen. Where's your towel? They're over here. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for playing along. Come back next week when we're going to do the Arborist Discount Network. We're going to have crazy sales and it's going to be a blast. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for Trent and Joe, and we will see you next week. Now I'm going to dry off. Here.
I can't be in water